Good evening, Crossword family, and everyone that's tuned in to our Better as Psych segment this evening. As you can see, the set looks a little bit different this evening, and we are grateful for Bishop Sykes and his allowing us to talk about racial and social injustice from a woman's perspective. We thank you for tuning in, and we are going to dive right on into our segment now. I want to introduce to you two powerful women who have joined me this evening, Akemi Cooper, and many of you do know her, and Shavonna Gaylor. I'm so grateful for them joining us this evening for this special segment. Akemi Cooper has been with Crossword Christian Church for many, many years now. She is the wife of Associate Pastor Aaron Cooper, but she is also one that oversees our marriage ministry. She is a powerful young woman, and she also is very involved in the social work arena professionally. And she knows a lot about the social injustice when it comes to the foster care system, yes, and also just youth and young adults in general. But she has a passion for all of God's people. So I look forward to you hearing from her this evening as we continue in our segment. The other guest I have here, the lovely Shavonna Gaylor, and she is well, we call her the emerging healer. She actually has a book out right now, and it is powerful. And she is a licensed marriage and family therapist. She also works within our counseling ministry at Crossword Christian Church, but she also has her own private practice. The common thread outside of our faith and belief in the Lord is that we are all mothers. Mm-hmm. We are mothers of sons and daughters who are children of color. We are Black people. Mm-hmm. And it's not to, say anything negative about any other race, mm-hmm, but we do have a very important and serious concern about what is going on in our country right now. Yes. As many of you know, the verdict came in yesterday, sentencing Chauvin to pay for the crimes that he committed against George Floyd. Mm-hmm. And while many had a sigh of relief, they breathed a sigh of relief, many were in tears because this has it's taken years, hundreds of years, for us to even begin to feel or see this type of justice for people of color. Mm-hmm. And so while we are breathing a sigh of relief for a moment, the work is not done, right? We need to get past sentencing. We need to make sure that happens correctly. But there are some very active things that we can do as people of God, but also as mothers, as fathers, to help our upcoming generations be assured of equal treatment, yes, fair treatment in the world that we live in. Absolutely. Okay, so I want to start out by asking our guests to share with us from your own professional perspective, what has been going on since you've experienced not just George Floyd's situation last year, but Devon situation this past couple of weeks, and just the injustice that we've been experiencing the last several years. So from a professional's perspective, what do you see as you're serving the people who are struggling with racial injustice? Do they have fears? What do they say? I'm Kay, and I work for Riverside County. I'm a social worker. I've been there for 15 years. And I work with the population of 18 to 21-year-olds. Okay. So that foster youth, that age right before you get ready to go into adulthood. Right, so they're transitioning. That transition into adulthood. So that's what I'm there to do, to help them transition into adulthood. Okay. So in working with that population, I have a lot of young Black males, and I say males on my caseload, not men, male. I do, because they don't. They're still growing. They're still growing developmentally, cognitively, mentally. They're still growing. Yes. Absolutely, yes. Absolutely. So it's just since last year, it's just been. I would say that the males that are on the young Black males that are on my caseload there's a fear. Mm-hmm. There's definitely a sense of fear. There's definitely a sense of, I can't think of anyone on my caseload that has not been profiled. Okay. Moreno Valley Police, but we live in Moreno Valley. Right. And I work in Moreno Valley. And so they're constantly saying that they're being profiled. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would say that the overall, since George Floyd on that was May 25th last year, yes, I would say that it's been fear. Mm-hmm,
That's been the overall sense.
So you feel it's greater in the last year than it has been, say, over the last 5 years?
Yes. To watch that on TV, I don't know anyone, young, old, in the middle, that was not affected by that. And so to see, one of my youth said, no, I'm gonna say a couple of my youth said that could have been me.
Yes.
And so when you can see, when you can kind of put yourself in that, say that could be me, then that's
a reality.
That's a reality, because it could have been. It could have been.
Yes. Well, Shavonna?
I've seen it on 3 levels professionally. I'm Shavonna, and therapy is my gift.
It sure is.
It's my God-given gift, and it's an honor to serve every day. So I serve in several capacities. I have a private practice. So that's kind of the everyday individual who's coming, and I've seen an increase. So at this point, my practice is full, and I've hired on others, and all of the other clinicians, especially the African-American clinicians that I know, are relatively full. So with more people utilizing services, some people would see like, oh, maybe people are struggling. On the one end, people may be struggling with increased anxiety, depression, PTSD, of course, being triggered with all the traumas over the last year. Right. Also, I see it from the perspective that people are more aware. So there's a destigmatization of utilizing the support. So people are saying, okay, now it's okay for me to get help, and that is definitely being normalized in society. So I look at that as a really good thing, that more people are utilizing the services. Yes. So that's big. On the other end, I work at a hospital as well as a psychiatric liaison in the emergency department. So that's not necessarily the everyday person, that's the extremities. So that's the part that breaks my heart, because the gift that I get in that moment is I get to be, God allows me to see somebody at their end then. So they tried to not be here, and God allowed them to still be here, and I get to say, thank God I get to see you today. Because I get to see you means that what you tried to do didn't work. And that I'm here, and you're here, and you still have another chance.
Right.
However, over the last year, there's been an increase in those and thens I've had the opportunity to have. And so definitely seen an increase in the more emergency circumstances of mental health. And then organizationally, which is something I've been excited about, there's more of an awareness of the impacts of trauma. So what I do is sometimes I'll get called out to go to different organizations around the country to, if they had their staff is experiencing trauma, so to help the helpers. Because oftentimes the helpers, they're the soldiers that are out there doing the work, and they're having that vicarious trauma, which our spiritual leaders have too. That vicarious trauma our social workers have, helping the ones that help everybody else. Where do they take all of that emotional pain? So it's been a blessing to be able to go out and support in that capacity, offering trainings on vicarious trauma, offering one-on-one crisis intervention support in those settings. So definitely been busy, but doing God's work, and it's been amazing that people are utilizing the services and saying, okay, it's time to make a change.
Right. And that's the key. Social injustice impacts everyone's lives.
Yes.
There is no way that you cannot be affected by it, even if you personally haven't experienced a loss of a loved one through the violence of, say, police force or someone else. It still impacts all of us, and the social injustice has to be addressed. And we want to address it from a very real perspective, right? Because this is where we live, and we understand our faith has to be strong. We want to keep hope alive. We want to know and be reminded that God has put purpose in us, right? We are here for a reason, and we don't want anyone walking around in fear, right? We don't want you to be fearful. We want you to be proactive. We want you to be wise. We want you to understand what your options are, and just continue to live and navigate, thrive. Be all that you can be. Don't allow someone else's perspective to change how you live your life. But I do want to ask both of you, as mothers, right? You're mothers of black sons and mothers of black daughters, and as I am. So how do you talk to them about racial and social injustice, right? How do you talk to them, because they have an obvious concern as well, right?
Definitely.
How do you talk to them about that? From a mother's perspective,
I try to speak to the king in my sons, and I speak to the queen in my daughter, to let them know that they are kings. They're assets. They're not they're not liabilities.
Right. That's
So
good.
I try to
That
speak
is
to
really
their,
good.
try to speak to that. You know what I mean? And we, my husband and I, we're movie people. So, well, my husband really is, and my kids. So, so we watch movies. So like the movie The Hate You Give. And then we have this thing, I have this thing, all my friends, my concentric circle, I do what we call a brown couch event. And we sit on the couch and we dissect movies.
Is it brown?
It's brown.
All right.
It's a brown. So we sit on the couch and we will do The Hate You Give. The last one we did was American Skin.
Okay.
And my middle son Cameron is trying to be. Says he wants to be a police officer.
Okay.
So try to speak to that and try to encourage him, to go behind, trying to get someone in there. We can't evoke change from this side, Cam. So we need you to go behind the curtain to invoke the change.
That's
so I try
good.
to speak to him and encourage him. You know what I mean? So speak to the king in him so that he can know that he's an asset. He's not a threat. I think that when other people, the non-color people, I will say, that when they see, I believe that just from being black, when they see a black man, it's a threat. It's automatically a threat. And I'm telling my sons and my daughter, you're not a threat. You're a king. You're an asset.
Yes.
You're not a liability. You're an asset,
That's
and you're gonna be great for the society.
That's so good.
Amen.
That's
That is
so
awesome.
good. And I was thinking about, really encouraging how the conversations that I have with the kids about being the change, and that's on a whole nother level, actually going into that system and being a change on the inside to be that light. That's a bright light in a lot of darkness.
Right.
And when you were talking about being the kings and queens, because when I think about our children, all of our children, I think about brilliance and talent and greatness and the pain that comes when someone else doesn't see that.
Right.
And so how do you have that conversation with teaching our children to be critical thinkers and honoring their voice and building that up and building who they are up in Christ, and then knowing that, okay, this is all there, and I need you to come home to me.
Yes.
And so okay.
Bottom line.
Yes, I need your great. I know you have a voice.
Yes.
In this moment, and the hardest part of being a parent is saying, I need you to exercise that voice in total. I don't want to say submission.
Wisdom, though. In
In
total
wisdom.
Yes.
I need you to come home to me, and you can exercise that voice all day long while you're at house, and I'm gonna hold you and wipe those tears as you feel dehumanized. But come home.
Right. Just make it
home.
Just make it home.
Yes.
Just make it home.
Yes.
And that hurts my heart just to have to say that.
Yes.
Just make it home.
Just
whatever
make it
you got to
home.
do, just make it home. Like that's, you know what I mean? Oh, I'm about to go in right there on that.
Yeah.
Ooh.
No, don't cry. We good.
Just on that right there. Ooh.
I think it's really interesting, too, how both of you speak about pouring into your children to be that light, right? Be that difference maker, be that change maker. And do you think that having more people who look like us, say, in law enforcement, and I wish we would really go back to that language that says peace officers.
Right.
Yes.
Right?
Bring the peace.
When we became police officers or law enforcement officers, it changes the dynamic of the mentality, right? I remember when I was a child, they were peace officers. That's what they were called.
Right.
And they were here to serve and protect, but also to maintain the peace and order of things. And so I wish we could go back to that. But I do believe that having more people who look like us in those areas of authority can make a difference.
Right.
And I know there's a lot of conversation too about having police officers or law enforcement working within the communities or living within the communities that they serve.
Right.
Because you'll hear older people say that back in the day, they lived in our communities, they were in our neighborhoods. You've even heard bishops say this. And so they know the people. So when a kid goes wrong, they're able to say, you know what? I know you. Yeah, exactly. I know your mom and daddy not, in for that. You're gonna be in trouble, so you need to straighten up.
Right.
Or take them home
Right.
when they see them doing something wrong. Right.
Right.
But that still doesn't change what happens outwardly, because the social injustice isn't within our homes; it's on the outside coming in, and we have to send them out into the world. That's what we raised them for, to be able to navigate and live in the world as people who can be seen, who have a voice, but also who walk in wisdom, right? With authority that God gives each and every one of us as His children.
Yes.
And I do want to pause for a moment and just say, there are people of non-color, people who are out there helping,
Yes. Yes.
make that clarion call. So we
Yes.
appreciate every
Yes.
race,
Yes, we
every
do.
nationality,
Yes, we do.
every person who is recognizing this injustice.
Right.
Yes.
And it's been very huge against black and brown people for years and years and years.
Right.
So now that we're talking about this, one of the things that happens within the racial or social injustice community, and in fact, I just saw one of the questions, it says, here, how do you talk about hate of brown and black people to your children? Because there is a very obvious dislike, and I mean, hate is a strong word, but let's just be honest. There is a lot of hate out there against our people.
Yes.
And it's not under the covers anymore. It's very obvious. And our children have to be able to handle that without becoming angry and irate and now becoming one of those people who also spew hate, right? So how would you talk to your children about the hate that they may face when they go out into the world?
Well, one of the things that I do is, and I think, so there's a conversation with them about humanity, worth, and value, and that they have it and that no one else's perspective of them can change their humanity, their worth, and their value. But one thing that I know we do, all three of us, is we model that love. We model that humanity. We model that other people have value. I know without a doubt, even though I didn't see it, that no matter what somebody looks like, if you were on the street, you're going to go help. I know you have help. Your children have seen you show love to someone else, regardless of the color of their skin. Your children have seen you advocate. Your children have seen you exercise your voice. And so I think that not only are we talking to them about it, but we are showing them their work. We're showing them. So we're showing them in every day the humanity and the love, so they can't succumb to hate when they are in an environment that embodies love in every way.
Totally agree with that.
Right.
Totally agree with that statement.
What would you add to that?
To
Kay?
piggyback on that, yeah, definitely modeling. Definitely modeling love. But I'll also say that trying to prepare them as well. So you still have to have that talk. You know, Aaron and I, my husband and I,
talk,
that is so sad that we have to even say that we have to have the talk with our kids, you know, with our young adults. So we were just saying the other day, what's the officer in Virginia that got pulled over and it was pepper sprayed or whatever?
Oh, the second lieutenant. Rosario. Yes.
He got pulled over, and the reason he said I'm not trying to evade the police. I wasn't trying to evade you. You know, I was just trying to get to a lighted
Safe
area.
place. Yes.
A lighted place. So that made me. That just vexed my spirit. So I talked to Aaron. I was like, you know, we're gonna have to have a talk with the kids again, and then we're gonna say now we have to have a code. So look, if this ever happens to you, if you ever get pulled over, okay, call. Well. I'm that helicopter mom that I have. We have iPhones. We have iPhones, and so I have your location. And I don't know when I'm ever going to be able to get that up. Maybe when they get married.
I don't know.
Maybe 5 or 10 years into their marriage.
No, we're going to give it as soon as.
Girl, I don't know. I don't know.
But you know that conversation. Our youngest is 16, and we live in Canyon Lake. For those of y'all who are not local, it's not a lot of us.
Yeah.
In Canyon Lake, it's about 1% of us.
Yeah.
So, and our house, right? It's a long walkway to get to our house. So there's a gate right there, and on the other side of the gate is our pool, and next to the pool, our privileged little 16-year-old has French doors that lead to his bedroom, right? So he's coming home from skateboarding and he hops the fence. It's my fence. I'm going to my pool, going to my bedroom. And the neighbor came over and said, hey, we're going to call the police. Somebody hopped in your yard with a hoodie on. And so we had to sit down and have the talk again. You can never hop that fence again. That is, and he's like, and so you have it's my fence.
Exactly.
That's my room.
Exactly.
Or my fence.
Exactly.
I don't understand why I
Exactly.
can't. And we had to have the talk.
You have to have the talk.
We had to have the talk again.
Right.
It doesn't matter. And I don't care whether you're wearing a hood or not. Your brown face is perceived as a threat. And if the cops had come that day, we don't know what would have happened in your yard, by your pool, near your room.
Because they kill people in their houses.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, they do.
So
We've
that
had
talk
many
is
instances
so
of that.
harsh.
Right.
It's so hard.
Right.
It's so hard to have that talk.
Right.
Oh
Right.
my God.
It is.
But we have to have it.
We
But
have to have it. It is. It's very important to have those conversations with our children. for their safety.
Yes.
And it teaches them, but it goes back to what you all were just saying, modeling,
Yes,
right?
modeling.
And also teaching them, guiding them, training them to be responsible adults, but also wise adults, right? Because we don't know what the outcome could have been if someone had called the police. And, you know, you're in the house, you don't know what's going on there. So all of a sudden there's a knock on your door. It's a whole different scenario, a whole different situation. And so we just really want our youth, our adults, actually anyone, black or brown, to just use wisdom and understand that there are certain protocols and practices and things that unfortunately we have to go through.
Yes.
We hope it isn't forever, but if it is, we have the intelligence, we have the strength, and we have the ability to navigate it and get through it.
Yeah.
That's the truth. We support one another, we encourage one another, and I love what you said about the phones. If you have anybody in your household that you hand the phone for, you have the right to have the location on.
Yes, I do.
Okay?
There it is.
Just make that note. And if
Yes.
anybody disagrees with that, you can contact Bishop Sykes. All right? Anyway, but you know, you have the right to have that location on.
Right.
We need to know where our children are at all times.
Amen.
And it's not just even the threat of police interrogation or violence. Our kids are disappearing from the streets.
You better know it.
You know, people are stealing them.
You better
and
know
so we need to know where that last known location was so that we can be able to reach you, to be able to find you. And I know there's a lot of concern because when our boys, our girls are pulled over, you know, it's this thing, you need to get to a lighted area.
Yes.
You want to get into a public area where other people can see what's going on.
Exactly.
Can you imagine what would have happened had the woman not recorded all of what was going on with George Floyd?
Right.
Because the original definition or description of how he died talked about medical condition. It wasn't what really happened. So someone was covering things up. So having the ability to say, okay, Mom, Dad, I'm here right now on this street. I'm in a lighted area, and I'm getting pulled over.
Yeah, it makes
right?
my nerve, yeah.
And with Siri, I don't know how Androids work. I don't have an Android, but you can do the talk to text and say, somebody needs to come help me.
Right.
Things are about to go down.
So we had to come up with a code. We had to come up with the code.
A code is a great idea.
Come up with the code and just say, so call, talk, text, Dad, I'm getting pulled, Mom, Dad, I'm getting pulled over right now. And then, or hit the text, hit the code. We'll be able to look at your location and we're on our way. We'll be able to go. So I don't know if I'm gonna be able to give that up when they get there.
You will, because you're going to trust your new daughter-in-law.
Okay.
Because she's gonna have your back,
All
girl.
right,
She's gonna have your back.
Okay.
We're gonna just speak that now. Your sons are going to pick wives who are solid and you got good relationships with.
receive
Okay,
that.
we're gonna just put
We'll
that out
receive
there,
that. We'll
and then our
receive that.
daughters will do the same. Okay,
Yes.
they're gonna have men that will take care of them, who will love them, protect them, give them the freedom to be who they are.
Amen.
Right.
Amen.
I received that.
So I have another question here. We want to talk about social movements, right?
Okay.
Because in addition to the social injustice and the racial injustice that we experience, you know, everybody wants to get out there. I'm going to go march. I'm going to protest. This is wrong. Get involved in the peaceful protests. So as a Christian, should we be involved in social movements? What would you tell your children as a mom?
Well, they did. My kids did participate in a peaceful protest in downtown Riverside.
Okay.
And so, and I absolutely do. I feel that Christians.
Yes.
So again, to me, that would be an opportunity to be able to show Christ.
Amen.
That to me, that will be able to be able to show Him. So I should be able to show love of Christ to while we're out there protesting. So I definitely think that's something that Christians should be. You know, we should be at the front.
Yes.
The church should be out
Yes,
front.
yes.
Definitely
Yes.
protesting. So
Yes.
I definitely agree with that. I mean, I definitely think.
I absolutely agree. And I think that there are so many different ways to have your voice heard and to make your voice known. And our children, whether it's protesting, whether it's just being a voice and involved at school, like student unions, things like that, just being actively involved. And I mean, I'm not a Bible scholar. I love Jesus and I know He loves me and I have a really good leader that you know, spiritual
Yes, he
leader.
does.
But what I do know is that Jesus didn't just sit back idly. So I know that we show Christ like love, and we show Christ like voicing and expressing and speaking to what's not okay in the world.
Amen.
Right. And I so agree. I'm glad you all brought that up, because Jesus was really a mover and a shaker.
Exactly.
He was not showing preference at all to those who had. The have-nots are the ones that he focused on. Those people who were being treated unjustly and inhumanely and without dignity, right? He was very proactive in those areas. In fact, he really reprimanded a lot of those Pharisees and Sadducees for their attitudes of superiority, you know.
Cast the first stone.
Exactly. Ooh, or Jesus writing in the, I would love to know what he wrote in the dirt that day. I do, because they all looked at it and they were like, oh man. I'm out. They did that little Baptist, tip out. Anyway, but so true. We definitely need to be involved. And if you really think about it, years ago, the church was really at the forefront. Of a lot of these movements.
Martin Luther King,
Selma,
definitely.
We were at the forefront. Even when Rosa Parks' situation was happening, the church and other social organizations were right there, linked arm in arm with white folks, with Mexican folks, with, Jews. Everybody was a part of that movement, because we all at some point have experienced injustice. Or being treated without dignity.
And what I have to say, this just came to my heart, and I just want to, you could definitely, I'd rather you speak to it more eloquently and clearly, but for those of you who fear that the word was used to dehumanize and abuse and put us down, and it was used. The word was misused. And when in the historical context, and you see that it was misused by evil people who wanted to distort it for their own gain, and it was harm. And I really want people to know that that's not the word.
No,
that's not. That's not. And I do know that I hear people say it all the time. Well, that's what the slave owners used. They would beat the slaves over the head with the Bible to beat them into submission with that word. And I want them to know that was lie. That was false.
Right.
That was a lie. Don't let that. Don't believe. Don't think that is what the church was. That was not the church.
No. No.
Yeah.
And the church isn't about all of those rules and regulations. The church is about a relationship. That relationship with Jesus, who redeemed us, who paid the price for all of us, right?
Come on.
But and you're right. You're talking about during the slave times.
Yes, during the slave times.
And in fact, they would call the black preacher to read those specific scriptures. If he read anything outside of those scriptures, he was beaten and removed from his post, most likely. But they use that to keep us down, to keep us enslaved. And I think because of that, we've had generation upon generation upon generation of feeling unworthy and actually drawing away even from our faith. Because it just didn't match up. But throughout the Bible, you see instances of this, even back to Pharaoh's time, but what they weren't really truthful about is during those times, there were slaves of all nationalities. It wasn't just black people, but it wasn't intended in the way that those slave owners were using it. Okay, so it was definitely taken out of context, and so we need to be wise enough to realize that. God created us with purpose. In fact, if you really think about it, I mean, we are the first people. We are the original people, in my mind. But anyway, Eden is in Africa, right? So Jesus was a man of color.
Facts.
Right? And so we really are part of that chosen generation, in my perspective. Even though we're Gentiles and we are, adopted into the family of God, we still have great authority and great power and great purpose. And I think we need to look at those old day actions of people who didn't have our best interests at heart, right? And walk in forgiveness, but understand that we can move forward, we can move past that, right? We talked a few moments ago about the talk, having the talk. And someone wanted to know, how old were your kids, or when did you actually start having the talk with your kids, right? Is it just something recent you did because of all of the killings and murders that have been going on, or is this something that you have been doing for a while?
Well, I would say that I I can honestly think that even through our reading and the exposure, I have a 9-month-old granddaughter, and I'm reading to her about loving who she is and loving the skin that she's in, and understanding that she's a brown-skinned girl, and really loving that and appreciating that. So I think it in museums and things like that, and loving other people, but also knowing who she is and being comfortable, and so I think that that's where the talk even starts, even early.
Even younger.
I'm going to say for me, I believe that when my fear hit an all-time high, honestly, was when they started driving.
Okay.
When my kids
So in
started
those
driving.
teens, 16, 17, 18.
Yeah, I'm sure that my husband spoke to them prior to that. But for me, from a mother's point of view, make it home. Okay, I need you 10 and 2. I need to make sure that So I would say when they start driving by themselves.
Okay.
And you know what? It intensified. I gotta say, it did intensify with the horrible murder of Trayvon Martin.
Oh, we definitely.
It intensified at that time.
Okay,
you know,
that.
The talks
That's a good
really
connection.
became more
Right.
frequent.
It did.
Yes.
I would agree. I would say the same thing.
Good.
Yeah,
And I think many in our audience can relate to that as well.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
So we're up to a point where we can take some questions. Do we have any questions coming in that we can talk about here?
I'm trying to take questions.
So, nice questions, huh? Okay.
That's a good one.
All right. So, Pastor Karen, thank you for the word this past Sunday. I never told anyone due to feeling embarrassed. I was molested as a child and still deal with bouts of depression and with hate for that person. What can I do? Okay. So, understand, we're going to talk, I'm going to mention forgiveness here. Okay? Because the forgiveness is for you, it's not about that other person. And I can share this with you from personal experience. As a child, I had been molested. And I grew up with just feelings of shame. Never told my mom, never told my dad, because this person told me if I said anything to anybody, that great harm would come to my family. And so as a child, I was afraid. And so I never said anything. But my family lived next door to this family for probably a year or two after that began to happen. And it didn't just happen once, okay? And so it got to the point where I didn't want to go over there at all. And I'm sure my mom couldn't understand why, but that was why. And for years, when I would hear this individual's name, I would literally be filled with hate. And it's like, God, just strike him dead. Just do something, horrible to him. And I'm going to be honest with you, it was even after I accepted Christ. Anytime I heard this person's name, it brought up this emotion, right? And as I really began to solidify my walk with Christ and really understanding my faith and the fact that what that person did to me is not who I was, that I didn't do anything to deserve it or to even invite it, that I needed to forgive him. And it took me a while, I'm going to be honest with you. So you've got to start working and processing in your own heart and in your own mind how you need to do that, to navigate being free from that. It may be writing out, I forgive this person, I forgive this person, what they did to me wasn't right, just so you can get it out. A good therapist, a good counselor, your pastor.
From a clinical perspective?
Yeah, give me just a second, we can do that. And really deal with that aspect of it, because when I was 21, I learned that this person had died. And because I had begun that process of dealing with it spiritually, initially I was like, yes. But immediately the Holy Spirit convicted me. And I felt bad, and I did cry. But I did also have a sense of relief that I didn't have to worry about running into this person, on the streets or any of those kinds of things, because it affects you deep. Those kind of actions affect you deeply. So begin to heal, work on forgiveness. But, I'm going to have Shavonna share, from a clinical perspective, what you can do.
Well, first of all, I wanted to say I'm sorry to this individual and you, Pastor Karen, because nobody should ever have to experience that. I'm sorry, and thank you for being transparent and sharing your story to help this person and all the other people who know that they have gone through this as well. So there's a couple things. All of our when we have difficult things happen to us, all of our emotions, all of our experiences, they come inside. They're inside. And when we hold them, if we don't control how they come out in healthy ways, then they're going to come out some kind of way anyway.
Right.
They're going to bleed out in health
Right.
issues and hate. And,
Right.
I mean, this is a heavy burden that you're carrying, and it's not even your burden to bear.
Right.
And by definition, the word burden means that it's too heavy for you to carry
Yes,
alone.
that's good.
So by definition, so this experience was a burden that was put on you that wasn't even yours to carry. And so by not telling anyone else, you're holding on to it and carrying this weight alone. And so, and it's been breaking you down. So finding a safe person to be able to work through it, to release it, and to work towards that healing can definitely help to begin the process of dissipating that hate.
Right.
Because it will be so freeing for you. Will it change the fact that it ever happened? Absolutely not. Right. But will it allow you to have more control over how that experience is going to be integrated into you? We talked about the and then. So what happens now? You sought your healing, you released it, and then. And where do we go from here? And how do we take our control back and not carrying that load that someone else put on us because of their issues?
Right. Right.
So thank you for the question, and we're sorry that happened to you because it never should have.
Never should have.
And the healing is available for you. Just know that it is available, and there are people who can help. So if you still need, if you need more support, contact the church. We are here.
Yes, very good. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it's so true. But thank you again for sharing that. Okay. So let's say, next question. What do you say to those who feel that depression is not real and only relevant during the holiday season? Well, depression is real.
Correct.
And it is in the category of a mental illness. It is a mental disorder, and it is real. And it doesn't just happen during the holiday season. It tends to tick up during, from October probably to January. But it's there any time of the year. Right. It really depends on, what's going on and how that person is navigating and what is the cause of depression, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Right. So how would you?
I think it, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It's difficult to understand because most people who don't struggle with depression, clinical depression, right? Every day they walk through life and something, they maybe have a baseline. Either you're a happy-go-lucky person or just kind of stable mood, whatever your standard mood is, and then something bad happens and you may become sad. Right? Something bad happens, you become sad. When a person struggles with clinical depression during that season that they're clinically depressed, their baseline is heavy sadness. And they have to fight for that joy or that peace. They have to fight for it. And so it's hard because you may see, a person on the outside may see it as laziness. Why aren't they taking a shower? Why aren't they cleaning their room? Why aren't they, where's that motivation? But it's literally a fight to brush your teeth, to take a shower, just to move, just to get going. So know that just because your baseline is, okay, hey, everything's good, you're so blessed, why aren't you, what's wrong with you? It doesn't mean that they're not blessed. It means that they don't recognize their blessings. It means that they are struggling with clinical depression and may need some help to get past that hump.
Yeah, right. And I think that the individual who tells that person it's not real either hasn't experienced that heavy sadness or experienced anything in life that would bring them to that low place. But experiences show me too, they may not have experienced depression, but there's got to be some countering emotion or illness or experience that they have had. And if you really take time to think about your own experience and have compassion on someone else who is going through something that you haven't experienced, it's just giving that person the right to be who they are, but also helping them navigate getting help.
Yes.
Help is out there, and help is really, really important to seek. So, anything else on that?
No.
Okay.
Great.
Ooh. Wow. Okay. So, my boyfriend does not work and stays out all night. He refuses to move out so I can move on. Any suggestions? Change the locks, girlfriend. Okay? Change the locks, change your address. No, you really need to seriously have a conversation with him, a heart-to-heart. And it's not okay. It's just not okay. But if he's your boyfriend and he's living with you, you might consider the fact that you got it backwards, maybe? I'm just going to be honest with you.
Right.
This is an old school mama talking here.
Yeah.
You got it a little backwards, but there's still hope. You know, you can move forward, but you're going to have a conversation with him and tell him, A, it's not okay that you're not working. B, it's not okay that you stay out all night and then you come up in here and, you know, I'm working or whatever you're doing and he's not contributing. That's not okay. Either he has to get it right or he's got to go.
Again,
Bottom line.
Again, to piggyback off, that's a male. Again.
Yeah, that is a male. That is not a man.
That's not a man. That's a male, because I believe that a grown tail man will will know that he needs to labor. He needs to labor. So, and stay out all night. Whew,
Yeah.
No. So
I think
I'm gonna go with what you first said. Change the locks. We don't need to have a conversation because there's no right there in that first line. My boyfriend does not work. That's disrespect right there.
Right.
Second, and then he stays out all night. That's a second level disrespect right there. So therefore, no, we don't have a relationship. You're not in a relationship, sweetheart. So my thing would be go ahead and change the locks and or move out, or you know, if you can't, because I don't know, in California you just can't.
You can't
if
just
he
pick up
receives
and
mail
move.
there, if
Right.
he receives mail at the
Right.
house and you
The
just can't
dynamics
evict him,
change.
you have to go through the whole eviction process
Yes.
or whatever. But you can move out. You can move, you know, if it's I don't know if it's a home, if you're paying a mortgage, or if it's an
Right.
apartment, you're paying on a lease. If his name is not on the lease, and you know what, I would call the management company and say, hey, you know what, you have a apartment 14C available, because I'm about to move out of 14A, because So
I would ask, I mean, what's another thing that's really important is if we don't look at within ourselves how we got here,
Right.
then he's going to be replaced with knucklehead down the street.
Right.
So if you
Right.
you
That
can
is
change the
true.
locks, but if you
Change
haven't
behavior.
looked
Change
at,
the
okay,
behavior.
how did we get here?
Right.
Okay, what's going on? How did I get to the point where either my picker was off? or maybe he was, you know, or there was a void that I had, a vulnerability that he kind of picked up on.
That is, I think, a major key there.
Yes. So let me
Yes.
see, how did we get here? I'm not blaming myself for his actions.
Right.
I'm just looking
It's
at
not
how
her
did we
fault.
get here, because I have to learn, because I do not want to go around this mountain again.
There it is.
Right.
So that's really
good.
important. And first, do all that first, and then do the work to find out how you got there,
Exactly.
so you don't
Once
get
you're
there
alone.
again.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes,
So
once
you
he's
don't go through it
gone.
again. Once he's gone.
And doing that work is empowering.
Right.
Because when you realize why you allowed yourself to do something
Girl.
that you weren't at a healthy emotional place, right? And you allowed yourself to be, I don't like the word victimized, but you allow yourself to be set up in this situation, right? And there are better ways to navigate relationships. And I love what you said, he's a male, because in my perspective, a real man would not put you in that situation.
Right.
So evaluate and always look at the character of a man, because you know you will be pursued again.
Yes.
Yes.
And it's just about using wisdom. And I always tell young ladies, observe their character.
Yes.
Right?
Doesn't
Is
lie.
he soft spoken? You know, he may raise his voice every now and then. How does he treat servers when you go out to eat? Does he always just suddenly have to go to the restroom when the bill comes? Right? Are you always the one driving? Right? He doesn't ever want to drive his car. You always have to hook up at your place and not ever go to his place. That is a red flag. Okay? Either he doesn't have a place, or he's living with somebody, or he's looking to move out from somebody and into your spot. Okay? So it's all about learning those things. I think one of the biggest keys is really learning to love yourself and understand that you have value and you don't have to compromise for anything.
You don't.
You have it in you to stand on your own 2 feet. And when God sends that man to you, I know the modern day thing is women, propose to men, but
no.
I do believe the biblical mandate
sorry.
that he who finds a wife,
Find it.
finds a good thing and obtain a favor from the Lord, right? And so he needs to be a believer, not just somebody that goes to church every now and then. Ask him what ministries he serves in. Ask him what his pastor's name is, okay? Because if he's really involved, he's going to know that. So anyway, we hope that helps you to some degree. Last question here before we close out. And it says, how can we continue to let our black girls know that they matter too, and have to be vigilant not only from the police but also from sex trafficking? Outstanding question. So I have a response, but I am going to defer to our guests.
You go first.
Give us a response.
You go first.
Human trafficking, sex trafficking, especially as it relates to our youth, is something I'm super passionate about and have done quite a bit of advocacy and work around. And working with some of the survivors, the vulnerabilities is usually the home. Usually they're either were in the system, felt they have been abandoned, neglected by those who were supposed to protect, nurture, and care for them. And so someone else saw that vulnerability and saw that need and swooped in and was able to take that need and utilize that for their own gain and the abuse of this young lady, the exploitation of this young lady. So I think it starts with us really, and I'm not saying all the time, but the majority of that vulnerability comes from a really, really broken and shattered home environment. So I think we all need to pour into our young girls. And one woman that I work with in this, who's a really big fighter in this industry, says the number one cure to human trafficking for young girls is a supportive male with healthy boundaries. Men, if you know a young lady, really pour into her, not from her looks. Don't only tell her she's beautiful, but if she has a football game, if she has a basketball game, go to her game. If you know you have a niece, you have someone in your community, you have someone at the church, and you hear that she got all A's, tell her you're proud of her. With healthy boundaries, show her that men can see the value in her. I mean, it's for us too. They're looking for that. Do you see me? Do you see my value? So men, I'm going to challenge you. If you know a young lady, pour into her with healthy boundaries. Pour into her mind, her talents, her worth, and not her body.
Right. And I think that is so key. So many times we focus on telling a girl or a woman, oh, you're beautiful, or you're gorgeous. Well, but what about her intellect? You know, you know, celebrate her mind, celebrate her intelligence, find out what she is really interested in, what her skill set is, and really build those things up. And I'm not saying don't tell her she's not beautiful. I'm not saying don't tell her she's pretty or any of those things, but don't make that the first thing out of your mouth, right? Show her that her value is in other areas as well.
I am the CSEC social worker for it's for exploited youth and for Riverside County, for my unit. Again, I work with the 18 to 21-year-olds.
And CSEC means?
Don't have me lie right now.
Child sexually exploited. What is it? Sexually exploited children. Commercially sexually exploited children. Commercially sexually exploited children.
Got it.
And so for foster youth. And so, piggybacking off what you said, it's definitely about it's a brokenness. It's a broken and the predators, I'm going to say, that tend to prey on the youth. I work with the foster youth, and it's mostly girls. But I'm gonna tell you what, the boys are on the rise. And that's another conversation I had to have with my sons. That's another I'm like, you cute, Cameron and Chris, y'all cute. So I'm trying to tell you, they're making. They are preying on the young young men too. But yeah, I definitely would say, piggybacking off what you say, is speak to their worth and to their value, because that's what I find that the young ladies, that's what they're looking for. I'm going to say 99% of them come from broken homes. They ended up in the foster care system, but it's because daddy wasn't there. Daddy was on drugs, or they never knew their father or whatever. So they're searching for something. That makes them vulnerable to be able to, this guy, my boyfriend, he got me the Birkin bag. He got me a Birkin bag or whatever, and then he said, befriends her, and then has her go out and befriend and recruit other girls or whatever. So I would definitely say speak to the value to the young women. Let them know their worth.
If they don't know opportunities,
let them know their
conversations. I think another thing that we can add to that is making sure that our girls know that it's okay to say no. Okay. And as parents, we need to stop telling our children, well, go on and give Uncle, Nikki a kiss. Go on and give him a kiss. Now, if she says, no, I don't want to kiss that nasty old man, don't force her to give him a kiss. And don't force her, when he wants to bring her and put her in his lap, because it sexualizes, to me, a young girl. And when they say no, their no is no.
Honor her no.
Honor her no,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
That's a good word, honor.
Honor her
Honor her
no.
no.
Honor her no. Honor her or his no. If
Or
they-
his,
if you-
exactly.
When you go over there
Exactly.
and they say, you can say hi, but when they
Right.
say, go give them a hug.
Right.
And they're
If
like,
they don't want to
if they
give them a hug, don't force them. Right. It's very important for them to know as they grow up that they can say no, that they can set
Absolutely.
boundaries, safe boundaries around themselves. And that transitions into young adulthood, young
Yes.
womanhood,
Yes.
right? Even in relationships through college,
Definitely.
through work or whatever. It gives them, it empowers them to feel, that my no matters.
Yes.
And I value who I am.
Yes.
And no is important. Oh, yes, we could go all day
Yeah.
on boundaries
Yeah.
being healthy.
Well, I know we've been answering questions, and our segment tonight was really on racial and social injustice. These have been some amazingly great questions. We really appreciate you bringing them to the forefront so that we can share with you. I do want to have our session close on the fact that one of the things that we as Christians can do, in addition to being involved in social movements, get involved in protests or other things, get involved in the legislative process.
Oh, that's great. That's good.
Okay,
That's
we
it.
have to be proactive in the social movement. Contact your congressman, contact your assembly person. These House bills and Senate bills are out there. And I don't know how many of you, Google is free, y'all, okay? Google is your friend.
Right.
Yes.
Search racial injustice, acts or propositions or bills or laws that are out there so that we are educated, black and brown people, that we are educated on
Yes.
what is going on,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
I mean, there is a bill that's out there right now, and I'm just going to share a couple of these things with you because we need to take authority over what happens to us too, because this is where change really will begin, okay? And this is the church taking responsibility.
Yes.
You're the church. It's not the
Yes.
four walls, right?
Yes.
You are the church, so you're taking responsibility to know, to educate yourself, and then contact your representatives and let them know, you know what, I need you to support this, right? And if enough of us get behind it because we put them in office, they're going to listen. Or if we tell them, look, this bill that's out there right now, you need to reject it. You need to speak up against it, and this is why, right? They will begin to listen. Because when election time comes around, we're going to be telling them, don't come knocking on my door, don't come to my church and try to talk, don't do any of that.
Don't do it.
Because you didn't listen. So here's HR. It's a House Bill 7946. This is a Racial and Economic Equity Act, right? And so I believe Congresswoman Maxine Waters is the one who introduced this, but it's a bill that talks about having equity, to buy a house, to start a business, to get a loan, from the banks, any of those kinds of things. Because honestly, we are, what is the right word? We're not given the right to, as a lot of other people, or access to these things.
Exactly.
Prejudice is shown
Yes.
because of the color of our skin. We can have the finances, we can have the, assets and liabilities laid out and
Credit, good
everything,
credit.
good credit,
All of
everything,
that.
but we are denied.
Yes.
Okay, so we need to know what these acts are out here so that we can either support them or tell our Congress and Assembly people to reject them because they're not going to help us. They're not going to benefit the people.
Right.
And we want all people to be benefited.
Right.
When we talk about social injustice, it's not just in policing, it's also in medical care. I don't know how many of you know the Kira Johnson Act. It's out there. This is a young black woman who had a child. She went into the hospital to give birth to her second child. Now, her first child was only 18 months old. She went in to have her second child, had to have a cesarean, and after the cesarean, the baby was totally fine, totally healthy and everything, but after the cesarean, she kept feeling odd. She kept feeling unusual. Her husband went to advocate for her. They told the nurses and all of those, the staff that were there, something is wrong. They continued to ignore her, her cry out for help. She died.
What?
She did. And so now her husband not only has a newborn, at that time, he also had an 18-month-old son to raise. But what happened, they waited so long, I think it was like 10 hours or something, before they actually took her into the operating room. And I apologize if I have some times off, but they took her into the emergency room, and by the time they opened her up, she had so much internal bleeding in her uterus that she immediately bled out. But the Kira Johnson Act We need to know these things because our people are dying not only in,
Yeah, black
policing,
women.
they're dying in hospitals, they're dying on the streets. We have to get socially involved.
Yes.
So that's one of the things we want to leave you with tonight. Google the different House bills, the different Senate bills that are out there that affect our people.
Yes.
You have a voice, get involved, get connected. That's what Crossword has been about from the beginning.
That's the
Yes.
We're all doing life together,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And we look forward to doing life together again on May 2nd. I'm just going to put that plug out there. Bishop has made the statement, the mandate that we are opening on May 2nd, and we are excited to do that. And you'll hear more about that in the coming days, okay? So with that said, we are going to conclude our segment tonight, and we are so grateful you joined us. Lady K, thank you
Yes.
so much for joining us
Yes,
this
you're
evening.
welcome.
And Emerging Healer Shavana, thank you again for your wisdom and insight,
Wisdom. Just pick your brain.
power. Everything you need is in the church. Have a great night.
Great night.
Love you.